Hello, thanks for clicking. I'm Mark Morse. Today I want to accomplish two things with this video. First, I want to talk about this album, End of the Century by the Ramones. And then I want to discuss my new background back there, how it came about, and about a young man in my life that's I'm very proud of, associated with that background. So let's start with this album, the Ramones. End of the Century came out in 1980. This is an interesting album for the Ramones. It is probably their most well-produced album. It was produced by Phil Spector, and until Phil Spector came along to produce this, they'd spent very little money in production of their records. I think I read somewhere it was from between $6,000 and $10,000 they were spending, and they like to record fast, just like their songs, just in and out and have the product out. What had happened is in 1977, Phil Spector went to a Ramones concert in Los Angeles, saw the Ramones and saw the promise they had, and he thought his recording technique, his famous wall of sound, would be beneficial, and he wanted to work with them on an album. At the time, they declined. I think they made Rocket to Russia shortly after that. But when they failed to make the commercial success they had hoped to make, they decided they were going to have Phil Spector produce this album. If I remember correctly, I know at first anyway, Joey Ramone was really excited to have Phil Spector, helping them with the record because, Phil Spector is famous for, producing the Ronettes and the Beatles and John Lennon. So, it would be exciting for any young punk rocker to have Phil Spector working with them on their album. The thing that happened, though, is there was a lot of tension between Phil Spector and the band. Apparently, only Marky Ramone really got along with Phil. Marky said because he was from Brooklyn and Phil was from the Bronx, that they understood each other and they got along well, but nobody else in the band really did, and they did not like the way Phil Spector poured over every note, and for hours and hours he would work with these guys, and they were used to doing things quickly. They had a $200,000 budget on this record, so far more than what they ever had before. And I think it took 6 months to produce this all together. I wanted to read a couple quotes in here because they're kind of funny. But as anybody who knows any history about Phil Spector at all, Phil Spector was kind of, call him a madman would probably be an understatement. He was a dangerous person, obviously. And if you know his history, you know how dangerous he was. But it seems that there was a lot of gunplay whenever he was producing an album. I remember reading about John Lennon when he was doing the rock and roll album with John Lennon, and Phil Spector brought out a gun and shot it off. And I think John Lennon had said something like, "Hey, go ahead and kill me, but don't ruin my ears. I need my ears." It seemed like he always had some kind of guns around him. Early in the session, Spector reportedly held the Ramones hostage at gunpoint. According to Dee Dee, when Spector took Joey away for a 3-hour private meeting in his mansion where the album was to be recorded, Dee Dee went looking for them. The next thing I knew, Phil appeared at the top of the staircase shouting and waving a pistol. This is stuff I took right from Wikipedia, so you can take it with a grain of salt. He leveled his gun at my heart and then motioned for me and the rest of the band to get back in the piano room. He only holstered his pistol when he felt secure that his bodyguards could take over. Then he sat down at his black concert piano and made us listen to him play and sing Baby I Love You until well after 4:30 in the morning. And then Baby I Love You is one of the songs covered on this album. I actually like it quite a bit, but apparently the rest of the Ramones didn't like it at all. Johnny told a similar story. Later, Marky Ramone gave a different account and said there were no guns pointed at anybody. They were there, but he had a license to carry. He never held us hostage. We could have left at any time. So we got two different stories. Just knowing Phil Spector, I tend to believe the worst, but you got two different stories there. Most of the Ramones were very displeased with the album and the direction it was going. They wanted it to be commercially successful. So they were doing things that they weren't used to doing. You know, the Century was described by the band as an album written solely to gain popularity, resulting more of a punk rock with pop sensibilities. Joey said, "I think that some of the worst crap I ever wrote went on this album. That was me at my worst." So Joey did not feel very good about what was going on here. There's even rumors, or Dee Dee said he didn't remember playing on that record at all. The others said Dee Dee was having a lot of substance abuse issues at the time. But he definitely played on it. In fact, one of my favorite songs on here, Chinese Rock, is a Dee Dee Ramone written song. Let me show you the inner sleeve since I have you here. There's the inner sleeve and the lyrics. This has been in my collection probably since it came out in 1980. I bought it pretty early on. This is one of the few records I didn't give away when I went into my purging records thing in the 1990s. On Sire Records. This is in terrible condition. I played it a lot. Anyway, they got through it, and my honest assessment of this, I really like this record. It does have that pop sensibility about it. I think they accomplished what they set out for. It might not have that bite that the earlier Ramones records have, but it's very listenable, and some of my favorite stuff is on here. It makes me sad when I read that they hated these songs so much because some of them are really some of my favorites. Starts off with "Do You Remember Rock and Roll Radio?" I'm Affected. I've always loved that song, but when I read up on this, they just seem to hate that song. Danny Says, love that song. Chinese Rock, which I've already talked about, it's about heroin addiction. It's just a great. Dee Dee always wrote the really edgy stuff. The Return of Jackie and Judy, Let's Go, and then side 2 starts off with Baby I Love You. I really like this version. I know that they thought it was gooey and sappy. They all hated it, but I like their version on here. I Can't Make It on Time, This Ain't Havana, Rock and Roll High School. Now that first showed up on the Rock and Roll High School movie soundtrack. My friend Brian drugged me to that movie, made me watch that goofy movie. I remember being angry at him at the time, but now it's a really fond memory, and it's kind of fun to watch the movie now. All the Way, and then High Risk Insurance ends the record. I really think this is a good record. I think it belongs in the Ramones catalog, and I would recommend it to anybody. You're not going to get the same Ramones you got before this. This turned out, by the way, to be their best-selling Ramones record ever. So they did get what they aimed for. They did get more commercial success through this record. Now I want to talk about my new background here and how it came about. First of all, I want to give you a better view of this. So I'm going to show you a little montage here, and then I'll come back and explain what you're looking at. Okay, so what you're looking at back here, I have a friend. Her name is Colby. We've been friends for years and years, and I just love this woman. She came into my life at a really vulnerable time when I was really struggling in the world. Just really helped me out a lot, and she kind of adopted me into her family. It's her, and then she has a daughter, Lily, who has become a great friend in herself, and a son, Ethan. And Ethan, in high school, started to learn guitar. He got really into music. With no guidance from me, this kid, he picked up some incredible musical taste, mostly classic rock stuff. A big fan of Nirvana. I don't know where he got such good taste. His mom, not from his mom, not from his mom. His mom has told me, and I quote, "I hate the Beatles." She's actually said that to me on more than one occasion. So he didn't get this great taste in rock and roll from her. So somehow it came up organically. Now he writes songs. He's a guitar player. So he had a really rough year this year. This was his senior year in high school. Had a really rough year. But he pulled through with flying colors. He even got through the driver's education part. And I took him out driving a couple times. And believe me, this was an accomplishment for this young man, because when I took him out, it was scary as hell. But he passed that. Now he's driving around out in the streets of Iowa. So anyway, after a rough year, he pulled out of this, graduated high school, and his mom had a graduation party for him. And the theme was, this rock and roll thing. And she made this backdrop back there. She made this backdrop for people to take photographs in front of through the thing. Just a really cool backdrop. And I was so impressed with it. I asked her, I said, "What are you going to do with that when this party's over?" And she kind of said, "Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll let Ethan keep it in his room." Well, by the end of the party, she gave me the thing, and I said I would use it for my background. I really do love it. I'm going to bring it forward here once I figure out how to get it to stand without my dog knocking it over. I'm going to have to reinforce it somehow. But anyway, I just love that. I love these people. I'll show you some pictures towards the end here of Ethan, Ethan's sister Lily, and her mom, and some more pictures of this where you can see it more clearly. But I wanted to introduce my new background back there and kind of give you the story. So that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this show and the Rock and Roll High School. My young friend Ethan graduating from Rock and Roll High School. And I'll see you all later.